Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to my Thursday night tarot chat. My name is Sadhana. And tonight I'm doing a tarot tag and I have so much to share with you. I was really inspired. Jen at Jen's Balanced Tarot last week did a tag. And it was just full of juiciness about the elements and working with decks and balancing decks and pairing decks, all these things that I love to share and I love to work with. And so I'm here tonight to kind of do my take on that tag, which you can see in the title of the video. And it's right away when I watched her video, I watched actually 3 or 4 of them that were up. And this was right when the tag first came up. So anybody who's made a video since it first came out, I haven't seen your video, I will go back and look at it later. And if you want to do a VR to some of the things I say tonight as well too, that would be amazing. So I have a lot planned, so I'm going to get to it. Hello, Brenda. And yeah, and I've got tea on the table here tonight, so hopefully that will stay safe. Before I was coming on, I was shuffling some cards, and I've been working with the Wildwood, doing kind of a more intensive study, revisiting the deck, and wanting to. It's also in preparation for a video that I'm going to do on timings in tarot, because different tarot decks have different systems and different associations of the seasons and the minors and the majors with timings. And so I wanted to revisit this one because this one is just an amazing deck. And the cards that I drew are it's just really profound, because it's a beautiful segue into what I want to talk about, especially with the earth element, which is where I'm going to start tonight. And so I just want to read to you a little bit from the guidebook of the Wildwood, and in reference to the stag in particular. Aloha, Jonathan, Michelle, and Kyle is. You've made a list, you'll predict that. Yeah, and I've changed the camera angle for tonight so you can see cards as I lay them out on the table. So this was just, you know when you pull cards, and how many years have you guys been doing this? And it's like, really, every time it's like your jaw drops and wow. Okay, so beautiful segue into the earth. And I'm just going to read you this little bit from the guidebook. We are guests of the earth, not its masters. And like ill-mannered children at a banquet offered freely by a generous and forgiving host, we have behaved badly and are in danger of spoiling the gathering for everyone else. Our thoughtless greed and selfishness have seriously disturbed the ecosystem. The fine balance and interdependent connection between nature and humans is pivotal. If the balance is disturbed by any inappropriate or thoughtless action, there will surely be a natural reaction, and the balance will have to be reset. And so not only does this card speak of balance, but it also speaks of the earth, which is where I'm going to kind of begin this journey tonight. Hello, West Star from Cape Cod. Wow, other side of the continent. Welcome. So this is my own take on this tag, and I wrote it down a few thoughts, which I am going to read because it took me a while to respond to this. So earth, home, planet earth, dirt, soil, the richness of the earth. And I was also thinking of the red dirt in Maui, Jonathan. And like the flecks in this tablecloth here, I am reminded of the treasures within. Yet we cannot separate the soil from the water, nor the minerals from the soil. Fire burns within her belly and helps her to enrich the soil, warms all who trespass, and balances the natural cycle of growth and rebirth. Water runs through and over her, both maintaining, water runs through and over her to maintain natural cycles, nourish plants and humans alike, healing, yet also eroding. And like fire and water, air also is welcomed and feared in its many forms. The cool breeze of a hot summer day, a much needed breath of fresh air, the smell of air dried sheets, and yet still air too erodes and is a component of massive destruction. The earth, whether you take it as from a purely scientific view, or you revere her as Gaia, is a powerful force. When we take only what we need, she supports us. But when we rape the soil of oil or minerals, she responds. And when we poison her waters to toxic levels, she responds. When we abuse her creatures, she responds. And when we destroy the atmosphere and the balance she has created, she responds. She demands balance. I wrote that right away after I watched those first two videos. One of the things I love about the suit of earth and the element of earth, the suit of pentacles in general, and its court cards, is that there seems to be an incorporation of all of the elements in the suit of earth. And I find that the courts in that suit are the most integrated and the least easy to ruffle. And it seems like I was trying to describe, you can't separate the elements in the earth. The elements are all a part of the earth. And when we talk of the element of earth, there's just so much to it. And so I love the suit of earth. I love the energy of earth. I practice grounding on a daily basis. I teach it. I'm passionate about it for health and wellness and all of that. And so what I share with you about earth is really coming from my heart, and a daily practice and a commitment to being connected, to walking my talk. So red dirt and black sand. Yes, I forgot about the black sand. So beautiful. I've also been on the black sand beaches in, they're famous on Kyushu. So Kyushu is one of the 4 major islands in Japan, and they also have black sand beaches there. And they actually have spas where you get buried in the black sand. So decks, let's go to the decks. A few more keywords for earth: home, hearth, family, safety. So safety comes from the root chakra teachings: humans, wildlife, elementals, and flora. So I have a few decks that I want to balance out here. And then I'm also thinking, why? Why do we want to do this? What's the purpose of this? And I think if you have the luxury of having many decks and you can use them to pair them with the seasons, to pair them with a current cycle that's going on in nature, if you can pair the decks to go with the kind of question that's being asked, or yeah, just how you're feeling and where you're at and what you're working through, then you're going to get a really, really good reading. And if so, yeah, so I think that's why we're doing this. So the first pair in this group, and I have several pairs in each of the elements. So we have an hour, so we've got lots of time here. And hopefully I'll get through all of this. So I was thinking about the Telluric Tarot, which is a crystal tarot. And that comment that I was making about, well, what happens if we remove the crystals from the earth? What happens when we take oil from the earth? And the beauty of this deck, of course, is that we don't need to remove crystals from the earth. We have the crystals illustrated in the deck. And the creator, there's a beautiful interview with her. I believe it's with Kasha from Tarot Map. She talks about that exactly, and that within this crystal deck, we have the opportunity to, and she's also a gemologist. And so the way that she has drawn these crystals is very accurate from a gemologist point of view. And that was important to her in the creation of this deck. But what I wanted to balance with this deck was, so this is something that we are, and I have to look at my notes because I have so many things here. What I wanted, so this is taking from the earth. And so I wanted to choose a deck that was replenishing the earth. And so I thought a beautiful pairing with the crystals would be something like the Herb Crafters. And the Herb Crafters is about replenishing. And so a lot of when we start to work with herbs, and if we are foraging natural herbs, part of the process is also the natural reseeding that happens. And also working with the environment, what is local, taking what is just what you need, not more than you need, and all of those concepts. And so I felt that these two were, they balance the scales really nicely. I see I have a rainbow on my face. I have crystals hanging in my window, and the sun is setting now, and so you see the light shining in. So that's my first thought on the earth element. The second, I have three points that I'm going to make here with earth. The second one is the storm. So a lot of the contemporary decks really shake things up. And this one in particular, the New World Tarot, is a call to action. And to me, this deck feels like a storm. And I will hold the cards this way for you. And in this deck, you also see a lot of chaos with the earth. There's a lot of buildings that are torn down. There's a lot of natural disturbance of human structures as well as natural structures. And so to me, this deck feels extremely chaotic. And why would I want to go to this deck? I think I would want to go to this deck if I were feeling self-indulgent, if I were feeling like I need a reality check. I think that's one of the reasons I would go to a deck like this. And of course, there's others, but this is one that really feels like, it's going to bring me back to what's important. And then what I want to pair with the storm of this deck, and this one is an oracle, and Jen said it was perfectly okay, we could use oracle decks, is this beautiful Wonder walking deck that I have shared with you not too long ago. So it felt like this deck shows the calm of the earth and a reconnection with the earth, right? So the new world reflects the disrespect, the storminess, the chaos. And so I really felt that here we have chaos and here we have calm. So that's point number 2 for the earth. So let me know what you think about these thoughts. And then the third point I want to share with you in the element of earth has to do with tribe. So in the teachings of yoga, one of the primary things that we work with is safety and family, belonging, and there's a lot of different levels to these teachings. And part of the wholeness, part of the balance, part of the strength of a healthy root chakra is the ability to move in and out of one's tribe with ease. So, for example, if you are very uncomfortable leaving your town, leaving your home, it feels scary. That would be a root chakra out of balance. But if you were able to go home and be with your family and your relatives and go kind of in and out of that group, that would be more of a healthy relationship with the root chakra. And a lot of people that have disease, colon cancers, that kind of thing, there's often at the root of that some very traumatic relationship with family and with tribe. And tribe can mean the immediate family. It can mean the family that you grew up in. It can mean the community. And so I thought this is a really important pairing, a really important kind of balance to have with decks if you're dealing with issues about family and about belonging. And I just thought this could also do, like a lot of people feel disassociated with being on this earth, which isn't I didn't pull any decks for that, but you could also use that. So there could be a very, very grounded deck with humans on it and pair that with more of a decks with star people, things like that. But what I was thinking of was it would be important to have a deck that reflected your tribe. This is new to my collection. This is the Afro Tarot. And it's just really, really beautifully illustrated. And so this might be your tribe. This deck might feel like home. It might feel comfortable because you recognize the people. You could embrace the energy of this deck. So this might feel like your safety net for you, as opposed to, and I have several on the table here, a deck that didn't feel like home. So where are the ones that I have here? So perhaps actually, this is a good one this was such an inclusive deck. I want to include this one in the balanced ones. So I'm just going to go to my list of the ones that I thought might not feel at home. And it's so weird. I don't even have them here. I pulled out a gazillion and one decks. Oh my goodness, Sadhana. So, where am I? I lost myself in my notes. Okay, so I do have one here. So this deck has a lot of, or only white people, and generally these white people are in a, well, actually, you might feel at home in this deck. So I think my point here is that if you are questioning home and safety, it would be important for the balance in the reading to choose a deck that feels like your tribe and a deck that doesn't feel like your tribe. So perhaps this one feels like your tribe and this one doesn't feel like your tribe. I think that's the point I wanted to make. So that felt to be a really important thing to connect with the earth. IT guy, hello. Welcome, Joseph. And I know I said that was it for the earth, but I know there's one more here. Oh, we have to talk about the treasures and the I was trying to find a deck that was extremely opulent. A deck that was just full of gold and excessiveness and that kind of thing. And I couldn't actually find one. Hello, Sunny. Find one in my collection. So I'm going to share this one, which I've seen many, many times. This is the Tarot Illuminati. And maybe you could think of a deck that feels opulent, excessive, like the excessiveness of the Suit of Pentacles. I don't know if you can think of some other examples, but this is one that came to mind. So that's the Queen of Wands from this deck. And I pulled one other card here in case you don't have this deck. Let's see. Oh, this one. This is also, I mean, it's a really beautiful deck. So this is the Two of Wands. Sorry, I should have put that one in let's get rid of that. So that was my other thought with the balance of the earth, right? Was the opulence and the connection to the earth. So that more of a respect for the earth as opposed to the opulence of a deck like that. And the contrasting deck that came to mind was, where are you? Hello. Was Tarot of the She. So this isn't normally a deck that I would think of as an earthy deck. I would put it in fire for many, many reasons, but I think this deck teaches us about the balance of the earth and being with the earth, much like the Wildwood, what I was talking about at the beginning when we are just starting tonight. But I think that whole idea about the respect for the earth, the understanding of the earth, the connection to the earth, as opposed to the, and I just felt like opulence was a really good contrasting word for that. So let me know what you think about those. And I know I'm really kind of not following the tag. So I don't know if the intention was 1111, but I'm offering up a few different things for you. And maybe so much in the element of earth, because earth is just, it's so potent. There's just so much energy there. Moving on to water. Lots of things come up for me in water. Tides. I live near the ocean. The tides are really important. They affect my activity during the day. And the lunar cycles, very much connected to water. Tears. Emotions. And then I wrote E-motion, energy and motion. Divine feminine. Amniotic fluid. Rain, snow, ice. Second chakra, Swadhisthana. And so within the teachings of the second chakra, there's all of the issues that come up with karmic patterns, twos, relationships, dualism, partnership, opposites, light and shadow. So light and shadow speaks to the lunar aspect of water. And so when I think of water, this is like earth. There are so many underlying associations with the element of water. So when you think of tears, maybe, I don't know, like this is a very emotional suit. And for different, anyway. So I'm going to share with you some of the pairs that I thought of in water. So an obvious association, so with water, would be a mermaid deck. So a deck that has water pretty much in every card. This is Dame Darcy's Mermaid Tarot. It has beings that live in the water. And I told you that I opened this on my birthday a couple of years ago and cracked it open on Maui at the beach. And it was a really special memory for me. So this deck to me speaks of summer, very much of water. There is a lot of sadness too, I find in this deck. The relationship between the humans and the mer people is really kind of interesting in this deck. And then I thought, okay, so how would I pair this water deck? And so interesting. I want to pair this one with Shadowscapes. Shadowscapes is otherworldly, and there are many cards actually that have a water element actually in them. But when I compare Dame Darcy and Shadowscapes, they feel to me like a completely different energy. And there's just something about these two, and I would actually love to do a reading with these two decks. You know that in my deck combo series, I've never done any of the videos with tarot, so I do tarot and oracle. Some of these pairs I am finding really intriguing, and this is one of them. So diving into the emotions and any of those issues that I was talking about with water, with relationship. So perhaps next Tuesday, because it seems on my Tuesday live readings, 90% of the questions are about relationship. And so this feels like it would expose some really interesting stuff. So that's one of the pairs for water. And then, okay, so also in my, hi, Georgia. And it's so funny, I don't even know if your name is Georgia, but I call you Georgia, so I hope that's okay. GA, I'm assuming is the short form of the state of Georgia, but I could be totally wrong. So maybe your name is something else. Anyway, I like calling you Georgia. Georgia Peach is a lovely name. Where was I at? Oh, I have so many watercolor decks in my collection. So I think there's something about watercolor decks because they tap into the emotions. They have water. They are watery in the artwork. And a lot of the watercolor decks that I have are really good at going into relationship questions and things like that. I know you've seen this one a gazillion times on my channel. Did I tell you that this one's coming out in my voice? There goes my voice again. I can talk about this too. It's interesting anyway. My voice. So the voice is connected, the fifth chakra, is connected to the second chakra. And I have been working with a client in the relationship between the second and the fifth chakra, but also, and this came up, I started to lose my voice when I was talking about the second chakra yesterday. And here I am now talking about the second chakra, and my voice is starting to go funny again. I notice these things. This deck, the Lily White by Celia Melville, is coming out in a mini version at the end of this year. So I'm really excited about that. I don't know if I'll purchase it, but so the watercolors, there's something about the watercolors that really evokes a lot of emotion, and beauty is another word that comes to mind. And I really love that. So if you were having trouble with this particular element, maybe just go through your collection and see if there's a watery color kind of watercolor deck, and see if you could bring that into relationship readings. And then I want to pair this one. Oh, okay. Huge contrast. So Deviant Moon. Lily White, Deviant Moon. So the water element connecting to the moon and the tides, the shadow and all that sticky stuff we don't want to look at. Often in relationships and love readings, what is coming up in relationship is what is being reflected back, that mirror that's being shining back at us, that stuff that we don't want to see. That's why we're in that relationship. And so Deviant Moon is just a really great pairing for something that's a little sweeter, like this one here. So that is the number 2 pairing for water. And I think there's more, but I might just go on. I need to look at the time. We're half an hour in and we've got 2 elements done. I'm just going to look and see here. That's good. I mean, I have a couple of others, but we'll see. I'll come back if we have time. Alrighty. So fire. As a yogi, there's so many different, the first 3 chakras are full of so many teachings and so much stuff. So when we get to the solar plexus chakra, we're dealing with also, have you guys ever heard of the koshas? The koshas are another yogic teaching. There are these different layers. The physical body is called the Annamaya kosha, which is the actual physical body, the meat suit. And then the second chakra is associated with the energy body, the pranamaya kosha, the pranas. And then when we get here to the solar plexus, we are starting to connect to the energy of the mind, the manomaya kosha. The manomaya kosha being the intellectual mind, not the wisdom. And that's just a whole other can of worms. But when I'm doing readings and I start to look at these lower 3 chakras, all these different teachings come in, and it's really hard for me to differentiate and just keep tarot in a tarot box because I can't. So yeah. So when I get to mind and air and ether and spirit, whoa, it gets really, really hard for me. These first 2 are definitely the easiest. So fire. Here's some keywords for fire. Hello, Darcy. Fire, heat, sun, divine masculine, right? The blade. Ego, I already mentioned. Self-worth, purpose, passion, digestion, warmth, comfort. Of course, there's so many other things. Anger, depression. So this was a really hard one for me. And with all of the issues relating to sun, very seldom do I think about drive or passion. And when it comes to creativity, that's also another association with fire as well too. So creativity from my yogic training comes from second chakra stuff. Creativity is the so in the element of water is where we're birthed into this world. All of the energy around the second chakra has to do with creation. The third chakra is more the action that we take. So the birthing of the creation happens in the second chakra, and the action happens here. But this fire, element of fire, is so full of stuff, just like the previous two. And this one was really, really tough for me. And so I was thinking, well, what is the most egoic deck that I have? What is a deck that lives in trust? So the medicine with this solar plexus chakra is all of the wrestlings with the ego, and then trust. And how could I possibly find a deck to fit there and fit there? Self-worth. So self-worth is a really important concept. And so to contrast a deck that focused on self-worth with a deck that was arrogant. So this is really tough, really tough. And then what about a deck that shows drive and action and lots of fire, as opposed to a deck that is like complacent, a deck that is indifferent? And these are the kind of scenarios that I want to pair against each other with the element of fire. And I found this almost impossible. Almost impossible. This was really, really challenging for me. So one that I came up with, Michelle got her Philarctos tarot. That's awesome. Okay, so I don't even know where to go with this because it is so I pulled out Tarot of the She earlier, and Tarot of the She is definitely a deck that I think of with the element of fire. This is a deck that works really well with any of the earth, water, and fire elements. This deck is such a beautiful teacher. Warrior 8 has dragons on it. Hello, Anna, welcome. You know, this, like the king of fire in this deck is absolutely amazing. And this deck feels to me like the element of fire in balance. Like this deck really, there's no, what I want to say, this deck understands the elements. This deck really teaches a lot about the relationship with elements and how we can use the elements for our healing. It's an extremely magical, powerful deck in that way. And so the contrast with this one, so I was thinking of, and some of you might hate me for this, because it might seem like a criticism of the deck, is the Slow Tarot. And not because of its name, but more so with the suit of pentacles in this deck. I find the suit of coins in this deck to be extremely, I'm just going to pull a few of them out and then I'll hold them up. So for example, here is the King of Coins. And so with a lot of the cards in this deck, I get a real sense of ego and ego out of balance. And that is one of the issues with this chakra. And so it also is very much in this world. And the Tarot of the She is, if you don't have this deck, I've done a thorough review of this deck, and I absolutely love this deck. Right? So here we have a deck that is of this world, and here we have a deck that is of a liminal space, the world of the She. And so I think these two really balance each other well. And I really like this deck, so don't get me wrong on that. But I think the contrast is astounding. Yeah, it's really astounding. Just how the relationship with fire in these two is something. So some of those other issues that I wanted to compare, I found, yeah, pretty tricky. So, oh, here's one other. I have another one for you. So I was talking about trust being one of the, so if on one side we have anger and excessive ego, even if we have the opposite of that, even if we have depression and self-worth issues, then on the other side, we need a deck that is super connected and an incomplete trust of spirit, and willing to step away from human experience, which is a huge part of bringing this chakra into balance. So here's what I was thinking. So here's the Marielle, which fits really well into the element of fire. This deck teaches us so much. It teaches us so much about action. And there's something about the use of myth in this deck that I don't know. And I find this, like, this is a real kick-ass kind of deck. And so it fits so well into the suit on so many levels, for so many reasons. But what in the world do you pair with the Marielle? So if this is the fiery side of fire, then the other side, I'm looking for something that is the going with the flow, the trust, which is the healing energy of the ego. And so I was thinking of this deck, because when we start working with the archetypes, and this is an archetype deck as well too, this takes us into a really deep place. And with these cards, you want to be pulling them one at a time, and you could work with a card for a whole month. And so what I was thinking is that if you were to pull one of these cards and a couple of cards from the Marielle and sit with that when you were working through some really tough stuff around some of these issues that I've been talking about, I think you would get a lot of medicine. And I just feel that these two, there's something really special going on here. So yeah. Love. I like these. Oh, anyway, you know, I also feel I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I can do this. I'm so grateful that I can do this as my business. I'm so grateful that I don't know, this, I love working with cards and their wisdom and their teachings. And I learn something from my collection, from my cards every single day. And having them out and using them and playing with them is the most important thing. It's, yeah. All right. Yes, the guidebook for the tarot of the She is just amazing. Alrighty, so where are we at here? When are we going to do the Kim Kranz reviews? I haven't finished reading the book. So I told you that I bought the book, and I also have one of her children's books, and I haven't finished reading it. So it's in the works. It'll happen before the end of September. Okay. I will do that. I hope that's soon enough, Joseph. Alrighty. So now we're going to go on to air. And this is just, I just find this just gets messier and messier and messier. So air. I talked a lot about air when I was talking about earth and all that air. So when I think air, the first place I go is Vata. And Vata refers to the Ayurvedic dosha of not being connected to the earth. Right? So if you have excessive Vata, you need to get grounded. And that's one of the first things that comes up for me with air. And if I think about lots and lots of tarot decks, the people in the tarot, the people in the suit of swords, the court cards in the suit of swords they're just so excessive Vata. So that means there's so much in the mind. They're not grounded at all. And they just, so that's where my mind goes, the first thing. So that's my first word is Vata. Disconnection from the earth, mind, intellect, and again, not wisdom, intellect. So book knowledge, that kind of thing. And so there is a cleverness with air. There's a need to prove oneself. And then I was also thinking about decks that have systems. Decks that have systems would appeal to people who people who lean this way. Do you know what I mean? Like if there's a system or there's something to kind of figure out. And so this one and this deck, I don't know if you, I could not find a Amazon link for this deck anymore. And if you go to Claire Goodchild's Etsy shop and send her a message, I think you can still get a copy of it. So the Antique Anatomy Tarot I purchased, it has still got the thing on it. I haven't even started working with it. So here I am cracking it open because I have all of the Oracle of Oddities. I wanted to have this deck, and specifically I'm going to be using it with yoga teacher training and Reiki training. And there is this curiosity of the relationship between the particular bone or the particular muscle and the meaning, the associated meaning of that particular tarot card. And that kind of energy really appeals to, the intellectual kinds, the people who love to be in the mind. Right? Do you see what I'm saying? So maybe you can think of some other decks that have that intellectual appeal. So this is the one that came to mind when I was pondering that. As opposed to the actual like physical element of air, this is like the mind thing. Maybe there is themed decks associated with something like that. it was hard for me to figure that one out. It also comes, oh, so maybe if I look it up under them, yeah, that's right. It does have several names. So I might be available under another name. I got to stay with my notes. So decks with cleverness, smarts, systems need to be paired with decks that are more, they still have that airy flow to them, but don't appeal to this kind of sensibility. So I would pair this kind of a deck with like a curated art deck. So this is the Lonely Dreamer. And there's something about these two that just is hilarious, because this would be so uncomfortable for a Vata type air person, and this would be so appealing. So if you were doing a reading for a lawyer, if you were doing a reading for somebody who was, you know, that kind of person who's always right, they know everything about everything, I think this kind of pairing would be really, really good for them. And at the beginning, I mentioned, like, so why are we doing this? Well, we're doing this so we can provoke a deeper meaning in a reading. That's why. At least that's my take on the modern tarot reader, harness tarot energy for personal development. Okay, so it is available under another name. Ooh, Darcy says maybe Robert Place decks are intellectual. That's a really good point. Okay, so yeah, so I think in several of the videos that I watched, when we're thinking of association with air, we're thinking of airy decks, right? Decks that are blue or light, or I don't know, like a feather oracle deck or something like that, or a bird deck. But this felt like a really important thing to bring up in this particular chakra. Or sorry, I can't do chakras here because the chakra system does not fit with the element of air and tarot. Sorry, the chakra system does not fit with tarot when it comes to the element of air. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, air is the element of the heart. So it just gets really messed up. So also with air, we're dealing with communication. We're dealing with the voice. We're dealing with language. We're dealing with, all of that kind of stuff. So messages, accurate messages, secrets, lies, half-truths, all of those kind of things. So hello, Emrys. Hello. Okay, so I was thinking about the beauty of poetry. And so here's another thought. I need to put some of these away. Oh, I really like this deck. Some people commented about actually, I won't talk about it because I don't think it's available anymore anyway. It's sold out. And I don't think it's going to be reprinted. So I was thinking about poetry. And when I think about poetry, I think about this deck. I have a few of them, but I think about this deck is based on the Yeats poem, The Stolen Child. And it also looks very airy. And it has a sense of lightness to it. And yeah, so there's that sense of, and when I think of poetry, I think of the beauty of language and things like that. And so that's why I wanted to pull out The Stolen Child, which is not a deck I hardly ever pull out. Ooh, I'm gonna I'm going to respond to Jonathan's comment in a bit. So this was for the beauty of language, okay, connected to the element of air. And, oh, I have a couple. All right. So, I think comparing that to new era elements. Do you know this deck? Like, this deck has some really, really hard hitting cards. This deck tells a truth, a very hard truth, a very honest truth. And I think when we're talking about, a version of reality, this deck is very hard hitting. Very hard hitting. I've got all these court cards separated here. So to compare the poetry, the beauty of a deck like this with the harsh truth of a deck like this could really, really provoke something in a reading. So that's one. And I'm going to show you one more. Yeah, new era elements. If you got this deck and were repulsed by this deck, make sure you go back and read the guidebook, because Eleanor did a beautiful job with the guidebook. I mean, it is a little white book, but it's got some really beautiful, she really does a good job in explaining why she chose what she chose for the cards in that deck. So, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's just because some of the cards are very, very difficult to look at. Okay. Yeah, new air elements doesn't mess around. And then with the element of air, the other thing I wanted to do was Philarcos, which is all the way over there on my altar. I've showed you that so many times. I will go and get it. It's 3 steps away. And I want to pair Philarcos with Sasravito. So this deck, I don't think I've ever really put it away for too long since I have it. For one thing, I love shuffling it. It feels good in my hands. But it has some really interesting truths in this deck. And yeah, the fact that a lot of women look like that is one. I don't know. There's just something about Sasravito. And there's a few cards in this deck that I absolutely, I love. And, you know, one of the things is that the devil, you know, looks like my neighbor. The devil looks like the guy next door. And we don't need to have a guy with horns or a woman with horns. I don't know. There's just this beautiful, beautiful honesty in this deck. And, you know, I'm thinking of the card where she's cutting off her hair, the 8 of Cups card. This card just gets me every single time. So, and so, yeah, so I'm just gonna go grab Philarcos. It's right here. I just can't put Philarcos away. Yeah. I think I'm going to be working with it for a long, long time. I don't think it's going to, yeah, I don't think it's going to be going anywhere anytime soon. And so the truth, the communication in this deck is about the communication through the dreams, through the dream world. And I think if we are listening, right, so that the element of air all of that suit of swords is not only about talking, it's not only about the mind, it's about the listening, and it's about being receptive and the receiving. And so I just felt that this one, which is very much in this world, paired really beautifully with the liminal space of Full Arcos. And again, another pair I'm really curious to do some readings with. So, oh, look at this card. So beautiful. This is trimmed and edged in rose gold. So this one is still on my desk too. So I'm thinking that this would be really good with the self-worth, in the fire element. Alrighty, and then to the final element, which is ether. Perfect. We're just at an hour. Hello, Emrys and Ariana. Hello, welcome. What did Michelle say? The devil looks sexy as the emperor. Ain't half. Yeah, the emperor's not half bad either. Oh, I wanted to go back and comment on Jonathan's comment. I'm just going to go back and find it, because this is a really interesting discussion point. I also have issues with my studies of the 5 elements in acupuncture, Chinese medicine, and the elements of tarot. Yeah, it's very hard to blend systems, and sometimes there is an overlap and sometimes there's not, and sometimes teachings contradict each other as well too. So if you think about the 3 of Hearts, which is a really interesting card in the tarot, and I believe that all of this, it's out there, right? It's out there in consciousness, it's out there in the Akash, and there's pieces that really make sense, and it's like, okay, I get the 3 of Swords. The 3 of Swords is a sword card, so it's about mind, it's about communication, it's about the challenging. So the Suit of Swords is just a really hard suit to navigate, right? You need to be brave. So anybody who's pulling a bunch of swords in a reading, they're doing their work, right? If you're not ready to face the Suit of Swords, you're not going to get the Suit of Swords. Like you're deep in it. Anyway, so the 3 of Swords has a heart in a lot of decks. And it is the element of air. And this is the element of air in the chakra teachings. And so when I made that association, I started to kind of look at the Suit of Swords in a different way. And the 10 of Swords, I see very deeply connected to the 3rd chakra, to the 10 of Swords as the death of the ego. So if in the mind, if in the intellect, if in that thirst for book knowledge and that self-absorption of the Suit of Swords, at the end, it's totally slain. And again, I don't think we can separate the elements, nor can we separate the suits. None of the cards stand in isolation. So, you know, it's important. It's important that we learn other things, but at the same time, it can be overwhelming. So one of my very clever teachers, she said to us over and over, this is when I was, it doesn't matter when it was, but it was deep in a training, and it was a training that went on for almost 2 years. And she was adamant that we don't pick up a book or we don't take courses on another topic, that we really immerse ourselves in what it is that we're studying. Learn it well, like really embrace it and learn it well. Don't try to learn Lenormand and runes and oghams and all at the same time as you pick up your first tarot deck. Right? Like learn it learn it well, or learn it fairly well before you go on to the next thing. And then you'll be able to make the associations a lot better. So yeah, those are all. Which deck gives you goosebumps, Michelle? Were you talking about Polarcos? I'm not sure. And Jonathan's Deepen Swords. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like the tarot is pushing us ahead, right? So the tarot is making us do the work. And it's like, you're not getting a break. You're not getting a break until you figure this out and until you do the hard work. So yeah. All right. So the element of ether. So the element of ether is another tricky one. And so ether connected to spirit, connected to the major arcana in the tarot. Ether is the unseen element that is between, among, through, within everything. Ether is connected to also to sound, right? Because we can't see sound. Ether is connected to smoke. It's connected to everything to do with spirit. So you'll see in this deck, this one, so you'll see incense throughout the suit of swords. So that is the, what do you call it? The sigil. The sigil of the suit is incense. Well, there's also an animal as well too, but so there's something about incense and the smoke that is connected to ether. So again, we have a crossover of a lot of things, but I think the intention for this particular tag was the connection of ether to spirit, to the divine, to consciousness, to universal consciousness, to God, to liminal space. So for me, there are a few decks that really tap into that. They're very personal decks. One, of course, I bring it up whenever this kind of topic arises. And I just want to address Tarot de Marseille, because I think that if I have time, I'll come back. So there's something about the Margaret Peterson, to me, that is so beyond the elements. And the other thing about, I can't talk about the chakras either, because that doesn't carry over. So spirit. So this deck feels very much connected to spirit for me. And when I work with this deck, it is very personal. I've never used it for a client reading. And I often pair it with the Rumi Oracle. And I think I shared that in another video. I feel that this deck with the Rumi Oracle is otherworldly. It is one of the most beautiful pairings. And I've also never used the Rumi Oracle for a client. So I feel if there are two spirit, which I didn't bring the Rumi Oracle to the table today, it's just magical, absolutely magical. And if you want to contrast with ether, to me, ether is ether. Ether is ether. So you would want to pick a deck that, so if this is a very abstract deck, you would want to pick a deck connected to spirit that was less abstract. And so one of the ones that comes to mind would be Ember and Aura, because Ember and Aura, so this deck was created by, I was going to say Lisa Richardson, but I have a feeling that's not her name. I'm sorry, Jamie. I think it's the creator of Ember and Aura. This was created, the art was downloaded. She was on retreat. It was created in very sacred space. And the deck is deeply connected to the energy of the Divine Mother. And it feels like a very sacred deck. And so I think for spirit, if I'm looking for other decks connected to the element of ether, the element of spirit, it would be sacred. So a deck that felt sacred. So that's one. And another contrasting deck, and I apologize to the creator. Oh, I should know her name because I just posted a picture of her. Okay. And I think this also contrasts well with Margaret Peterson. I love this bag. Look, this deck has always lived in this bag. Is the Vision Quest. And why this deck? You might think this deck would fit in the element of earth, but I think this is a deck that shows the connection of the elements. It shows a deep respect and a non-attachment to the elements. So it's very, it's such a beautiful, beautiful offering. And so I kind of feel like these two really balance each other out. Vision Quest and Margaret Peterson. Yeah. Can't believe I made it through 1 hour. A little bit over 1 hour, 11 minutes and 32 seconds, apparently. Jamie Richardson, thank you very much. So yeah. Oh, Fancy Dress is here. Hello. Can one give such a deck a go if they're not a seasoned reader? Yes. I'm assuming you're talking about the Margaret Peterson. Oh, and I asked somebody else about a deck too. And oh yes, Michelle was talking about the Filarcos. Yeah. Okay. So if you're not a seasoned reader, can you give this kind of a deck a go? This deck is also one, much like the Tarot of the She, that has a beautiful poetic guidebook to go with it. And so I would take this deck one card at a time. I would not do a 6-card spread or even a 3-card spread. I would take it one card at a time, do a daily draw, and reflect on the poetry in the guidebook. I still haven't done my video on best little white book, like true little white books. But this is one of the very best little white books. It's just full of beautiful language and poetry, and it really helps you to get into the artwork. The forward of the little white book is also beautifully written and helps you to understand about the Margaret Peterson Tarot. So yeah, and this is a trimmed copy. It does have a border. Trimmed, because if you trim it from the back, because there's a border on the back of the cards as well too, I think. Yeah. So yes, for sure. Look at this card. So this deck is put away right now because I'm working with the Filarcos Tarot, and I'm working with the Filarcos and the Wildwood right now. So those are my two working decks. There's a few other decks I have out here that I didn't comment on today. And is there any that I really want to mention? So there's a few Tarot de Marseille over there. Can you see them? Maybe you can't even see them. And I was thinking that if you were wanting to do a pair for that intellectual bit I was talking about, so for the element of air, you had a really analytical kind of person, that to use a Tarot de Marseille in contrast with another deck would be a really good pair, because it has more of a system to it, and that That's what I was thinking. That's why I pulled up the Tarot de Marseille. So yeah, so that's my offering for tonight. Thank you, Jen, for doing that tag. You really stirred something up in me. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, because a lot of text to put away tonight. And some of them I didn't even show you. This one, oh gosh. So those of you that have been waiting, it's coming out, right? So it's coming out again. She's doing a reprint. This is the Beautiful Rebellion. So I was going to, when I showed you the Lonely Dreamer, this one could be an alternate for the Lonely Dreamer. The Beautiful Rebellion. It's another gorgeous, gorgeous deck. So I'm just going to have a look at the chat. Anything else you want to... Oh, Darcy has a question about this rack. That's what you're talking about. So this rack is from Eddie's. Yeah, people ask about it all the time. It's eddies.com, EDDIES.com. It's a Canadian company. You can go there, and if you put in the search bar acrylic stands, or if you just Google acrylic stands, you might be able to find one somewhere. So this was from my craft fair days, and I made greeting cards, was one of the things that I did. And so I put greeting cards in this stand. And recently, because I was looking at other people's stands, I thought, holy cow, I have 2 of these in my garage. And so I went and dusted them off, and it's been on my table ever since. So yeah, I can put a link. If you want to comment below, I can put a link in response to your comment if you can't find the website. So yeah, so thank you all for being here. Wrong emoji. As long as you didn't put a poop emoji, I think we're okay. So thanks. Thank you all. Stay well. Enjoy the rest of your day, whatever time you're in, and I will see you soon. Namaste.